Donald Trump has a horrible week at the courts, and JD Vance can't figure out why thousands of veterans are showing up to protest the Trump administration. This and more as we jump into the pit. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Social Pit Podcast. I'm the Ski. This is for the week of March 17th, 2025. Before I begin, happy St. Patrick's Day. Now, as I have been starting out my podcast, to date, 9 weeks into his administration, Donald Trump has signed 89 executive orders. Now, this falls a little bit short of his track record, as he only signed 6 executive orders this past week. And one of those executive orders that he signed, addressing risks from Perkins Coie LLP. Now, Perkins Coie LLP is a Democratic-linked firm that has defended such candidates as Hillary Clinton and George Soros. Perkins Coie was also instrumental in the 2020 election, where Rudy Giuliani had filed 61 lawsuits claiming fraud against Donald Trump. Perkins Coie won 60 of those 61 cases against Rudy Giuliani, and thus began the pattern of erratic behavior from Rudy Giuliani, and thus ending up his disbarment in many places where he can no longer practice law. Now, on Wednesday, following this executive order, Judge Beryl Howell blocked the Trump administration from enforcing central provisions of the executive order to seek punishments against the law firm. This executive order was to bar these attorneys from entering federal agencies or even entering federal buildings to do their jobs. Judge Howell said that the retaliatory enemies of Trump's order is clear on its face and appears to violate constitutional restrictions to viewpoint discrimination. The executive order which Trump issued just this past week runs head-on into the wall of the First Amendment protections. Now, as we know, Donald Trump is a very vindictive person and will take any measures, extreme or otherwise, to attack his political rivals. The man has deflected so much of his crimes on his political opponents. Now, last week on Friday, Donald Trump had a press conference at the Department of Justice, and in that long, drawn-out, rambling speech of his, he said CNN and MSNBC should be illegal. And there comes a time in history where we look back to look at who else said that other news outlets should be illegal. Throughout Donald Trump's first term, he kept screaming, mainstream media, fake news, don't believe the mainstream media. But the issue at hand is that the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, all of them are mainstream media. And all of them have First Amendment protections called freedom of the press. Now, one case that I am very familiar with in regards to the First Amendment is the case 1964, New York Times versus Sullivan, that was fought at the Supreme Court. Now, in 1964, Alabama Police Commissioner L.B. Sullivan went after the New York Times, who ran a full-page ad regarding his practices down in pre-civil rights era Alabama. L.B. Sullivan claimed that the New York Times had damaged his reputation as a police officer and police commissioner. And in 1964, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the New York Times was well protected under the First Amendment's freedom of speech, and that freedom of speech limits public servants the ability to sue for defamation of character. The court also established that actual malice standards stating that the public officials must prove the defamatory statement was made with knowledge and that it was false or with reckless disregard for whether it was false. Now, this landmark case became significant and implicated libel laws and protection of freedoms of the press, allowing for robust discussions to be debated on in public issues. And this also includes criticism of the government and public officials. Now, as I mentioned this, people like Donald Trump who start running their mouths about being able to file a lawsuit for defamation, But the problem is Donald Trump, as a elected public official now, can no longer file defamation lawsuits against a lot of people, especially when the credible evidence against Donald Trump is very prevalent within our social media. One of the things is that there right now, 26 women have come forward publicly since 1975 that have accused Donald Trump of sexual assault and other malicious things. As a private citizen, Donald Trump was able to deflect those defamation lawsuits through the course of his actions as his lawyers did so much so to try to delay the courts. But as a public official now, Donald Trump's own actions is very much under a microscope every day. And as he writes many executive orders attacking his political opponents, every action of Donald Trump's can be easily scrutinized in court. And Donald Trump cannot, under any circumstances, claim any type of libel or defamation for his actions. And this is why when Perkins Coie LLB filed suit against Donald Trump for the executive order that he signed against them, claiming that this impacts their ability to do their job and that Donald Trump cannot, under any circumstances, attack law firms that are going to go after him in defamation lawsuits. And Donald Trump will always be a reckless endangerment to our government system. And as I stated in one of my very first podcasts, trust the courts. And this past week, the courts are starting to work in the favor of the people and the Constitution of the United States. And with that being said, Donald Trump is trying to go to the Supreme Court to curb judges' power to block his policies on many things, such as the birthright citizenship. And we know that there are 3 judges that are very much in Donald Trump's favor, that they don't care what the letter of the law says. They will rule in favor of Donald Trump because Donald Trump is Donald Trump. Justices Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, and Brett Kavanaugh are the 3 justices that will side with Donald Trump no matter what the letter of the law says. These 3 justices, all male, all siding with ideologies that are in line with Donald Trump's own ideology of hate. Many of us remember Brett Kavanaugh's nomination in front of the Senate hearings where it had to be stopped because new evidence of an alleged sexual assault had come forward to the senators. And surprisingly, with that in mind, Brett Kavanaugh still was awarded a bench on the federal Supreme Court. Now we know Justice Amy Coney Barrett was appointed by Donald Trump, but she has proven that she will, in fact, look at some of the laws in regards to what is taking place in front of her regarding her decision. Justice Samuel Alito, who was appointed by President George W. Bush, does, in fact, look at the letter of the law too, but he has been known to side with the Trump administration in regards to some of their decisions. But we can have faith that he may, in fact, look at the letter of the law and side with the Constitution. Now, as many cases of executive orders are going before courts, let us go back to the birthright citizenship. Several courts right now have blocked the executive order to end birthright citizenship, citing that it is a violation of the 14th Amendment. And Donald Trump is taking this to the Supreme Court, demanding that the judges' powers be blocked from allowing to stop his executive orders. Now, in the words of the executive order that Donald Trump is citing, many of his own family members, in accordance with his own words, should be deported. His wife, Melania, his son, Barron, and his older 3 children, Junior, Eric, and Ivanka, should all be deported. And in that should also be Elon Musk. Because after all, if we go back and look at the timestamps of when those individuals became citizens here in the United States, all of them were right after the births of one of their children. And in the words of Donald Trump's own executive orders, ending the birthright citizenship, anyone who comes to the country, legally or not, who has a child on American soil, should be deported, thus not allowing migrants to be given a citizenship here in the United States. But this isn't about white people with privilege. This is about migrants from the southern countries of Mexico, Guatemala, Panama, and so on. This executive order has proven nothing more than to be a racist and very illegal executive order in violation of the 14th Amendment. The reason why I say that is because Melania Trump is only the second First Lady to not been born in the United States. The first one being Louise Catherine Adams, who was John Quincy Adams' wife. Now, last week I had made mention on my podcast that on Friday, March 14th, there was going to be a Veterans March at every state capital in the United States. And I said that with weather permitting and work permitting, I was going to attend this rally. Luckily, I did get to attend. I traveled to my state capital here in Nebraska and was greeted by upwards of 200 people that all showed up to protest for the veterans, the VA cuts, and the benefits that us veterans should be entitled to. I was quite happy to see the organizer of this event for here in Nebraska show up. She is not a veteran, but she is a family member of many veterans. Her father is a veteran, her husband's a veteran, and many of her brothers were veterans as well. And she is trying to help push through some actions in Congress that's going to extend benefits for not just veterans, but also for their family members as well. Now, one of the things that I have seen firsthand is that many people who get married as veterans, when the veteran passes away, the spouse is then left with no benefits whatsoever. Currently, there is legislation in progress at the federal level to help assist that and change that up to allow widows the opportunity to remarry and not lose their spouse's benefits. As it stands right now, a retired military person, once they pass away, their spouse is not entitled to their retirement benefits. Many of the spouses of these veterans do maintain base access to the commissary, BX, and also health care. But the second that they remarry, all benefits are then relinquished. Now, on the opposite side of that issue, when couples get married, if they divorce, the divorced spouse is entitled to half of the retiree's pension. If the retiree passes away, the divorced spouse is then still entitled to receive half their pension until the day that they die. The legislation that is currently in Congress right now is seeking to end that issue with divorced spouses and allow married couples to obtain the benefits that they are entitled to till the day that both of them die. Now, this will give the opportunity for widows to go ahead and proceed on with their life even after their spouses have passed away. Hopefully, Congress will see that issue and will react in kind to really look at supporting our veterans and their families. Now, on Friday during this event, JD Vance made the comments that he said that he was surprised to see so many people show up. Don't they have jobs?
And I'm sure all of us saw there were a few protesters outside. And I can't be the only person wondering, it's a little after noon. on a Friday. And don't you all have jobs? Who are the people?
Well, ironically, the problem with JD Vance is that many of those veterans that out there, DOGE fired. The unauthorized group, Department of Government Efficiency, run by a South African national trying to destroy our government from the top on down, did not take into consideration that many of our veterans were going to show up in protest of them stripping away our benefits, our rights, our employees, and our access to the VA health system. But once again, what else do we expect from a corporal who has been given power at the top level to destroy our nation? Thank you for joining me today. Hope you have a wonderful week. Join us next time right here on the Social Pit Podcast.
About to go down, going all out. This is right now, yeah. Together we rise. It's about time. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power. Yeah. Unleash the power.
In a league of our own, the fire never fades, still breaking the mold, no matter what it takes.